Quickly, quickly now. Gather round the fire lest the shadows get you. A goddess has made herself known. None other than Aurora. She appears to be brought in Randall in a show of divine light. Hope restored for some, but confusion for Lucian. The goddess Aurora appears to be his deceased wife Cassandra. But how could that be possible? Things are not as they seem, as the group discovers more and more secrets.
We find ourselves now within the confines of the tavern, overnight, abandoned by the people of Ratwater, inhabited only by you. There is food in the kitchen, made by Ulrich, a fire in the fireplace, and drinks behind the bar. What are you all doing?
Torgog stands up, walks over immediately to behind the bar, and grabs the most expensive, largest bottle that he can find, and then lines up 5 little shot glasses and...
Not the Lagavulin.
Does anyone have some ginger ale we can mix this with?
Ginger ale.
Is there any Coca-Cola present?
You ask for ginger ale, and you see Lucian's sword isn't even on his hip, but it starts to glow in the corner like it's gonna smite something. There's no ginger ale for this. You're gonna drink it straight because that's the way it was meant to be consumed, Ulrich. This is better. This is the best way that you could have this wonderful choice, Torgog. This should be good for us.
Well, I've never actually had alcohol before.
You've never had alcohol before? And he's just going to start filling the shot glass and then push it towards Bip. Say, drink. And then, as Bip drinks, Torgog's going to down one, fill them all back up, and then just plant himself at the stool that's closest to where the bottle is sitting on the table.
Ulrich, you said you've never drank before. Is that a tenet of a Dawn Warden? You don't consume alcohol? Is that a choice? I'm just curious.
Just about myself when I consumed. We weren't forbidden by the order, but I tend to get angry and don't like that version of myself.
No, but if you've never drank, how do you know that you're an angry drunk? You might be one of those chill drunks that just sits in the corner and weeps. Would you like to find out tonight?
Guess we could. And Ulrich will hesitantly reach for the glass, nervous because I think he responds to things in anger, remembering back to the church of him hearing that there were locks on the doors and everything. It just pissed him off, and he thinks of oh god, what if this is paired with alcohol? But seeing y'all's jovial response, you haven't had alcohol. All right. Do I just drink all of it at once, or do I sip on this?
Yeah, kind of just open up your throat and imagine just a tube, and it just goes straight down.
Ulrich, it's important to know why you're drinking. If you're celebrating, you should be taking sips and monitoring yourself. If, however, and then Torgog's just going to down his glass, put it down. If you're drinking, however, to forget, well, you don't need to hold on to those social niceties.
I think that he'll down the shot. You enjoy that?
No, the burning is a feature. No, it's good. It's good. It reminds you that you're alive.
Very much knew that before, but oh goodness.
it gets better after, like, what do you think, Bip? Like, in number 8 or 9?
Yeah, at some point you forget if you're choking or not, and so it kind of... Maybe you just don't. I don't know. I never remember.
Now then. Where I'm from, it's customary to have deep conversations while you're drinking. And I'm just going to push out whatever remaining cups haven't been claimed out to individual people and say, I think we have a lot to discuss. I'll start. I don't want to spend one more night in this godforsaken town. Well, I want to pass out here well and good. And then in the morning, I want to leave Ratwater and never think of it again.
I would agree with you. I don't think there's anything left for us here. I don't think there's anything left for them here either, but who would have thought? I mean, I'm still in awe that there was a town like this so far from Flamespire. Do you all maybe think there are others like this?
Certainly I do, yes.
There are other wardens from what I understand, and I can only assume that they've had their own ventures out into the darkness to establish townships, and maybe they've been successful.
Before I arrived in Flamespire, I grew up in a place called Grand Skull Walk. There must have been 500 people there. A righteous town, by any accounting. Granted, backwards, long since past its peak, from before the darkness ever fell, but we made a life there. And, every year it got smaller and smaller, but the town survived. Be thriving still today. No doubt, it's not unique.
With a town as thriving as you've described, Torgog, what would have driven you from your home to leave for Flamespire?
Oh, well, my father is something of the leader of Grand Skull Walk, and, he's an exacting man with exacting standards, and, my older brother fell into place to take leadership of the tribe. You know, before the darkness fell, we had elections and people would be appointed into positions based on merit and then leave them willingly. But once the darkness fell, my grandfather took control of the town, and he's been passing it from generation to generation. Requires a certain uncompromising view of the world, and well, I didn't fit into my father's chosen way of life. Without getting too far into the weeds here, as it were, I was set up to be married to a political family for political reasons, and, well, I simply could not abide by that. So one night, I finally, over a bottle much like this, came to the conclusion that if I stayed, it would mean either I would die or my father would. I don't like my chances defeating him. But even if I were to walk out of there alive, everything has changed after that. And so I opted to grab the companionship of the only man I trusted. I've spoke of him before. Davian and I gathered up our meager supplies and stole 2 horses and ran. I don't think I'll ever want to go back to that place. It's no home for me now.
As you talk about him, Torgog, you will hear the echo of his voice in your mind from when you heard it through the window. Torgog, it's me. Don't you remember? The night on the bridge.
I perhaps have not come to full understanding of what happened before we made it to Flamespire. Davian and I were overtaken by the darkness. We were naive to think that a campfire would hold back the empties. And that evening, we were overwhelmed. He was first pulled back into the darkness, into the shadow, outside of the fire, and then I was shortly behind him. I struggled in vain. The darkness, it wasn't like empties grabbing me. It was more like fighting in cold water, until finally I gave up. I realized I would never be able to save that man. And to the degree that I could save myself, it probably wasn't worth it. And then the darkness consumed me. And I pulled it into myself. I welcomed it. And then I woke up in the morning. I don't know what happened that night. Davian was gone. There were obvious signs of a struggle. I'm not proud of what happened next. I spent the better part of a day weeping and searching for him. Before I realized the dusk was coming, the sun was setting, and I needed to protect myself. And I ran. And I found myself in Flamespire. Not the most heroic of origin stories, but here we are.
You mentioned it wasn't worth it to save yourself. What do you mean by that?
Ulrich, you are a man of considerable worldly experience. You've no doubt found yourself in a situation where you didn't think you would prevail. What kept you going in that moment? What kept you fighting?
It's never fighting for myself, but there was always someone else that needed me, that needed protected.
The only man I wanted to protect was beyond my reach. And my life, perhaps only in that moment, perhaps still to this day, wasn't worth saving. At least by my reckoning that night. But meeting you all has given me renewed purpose, an enthusiasm. I was never the most studied son. I wasn't a talented orator. My brothers always knew more positions and fighting styles than I did, but what I brought to the table was violence and perseverance. And I lost it that night, and I feel like I have found it again. Purpose. With all of you. We were all, and I look up at Lucian, all of us there that night in Alium when it started. When we first started to understand what the darkness might be. And then when we met that man in the tavern and watched those souls slit their throats. Well, I have a renewed purpose in life now. I want to see this thing through. If I was willing to sacrifice my life that night for no good reason, I'm certainly willing to sacrifice it now for a great reason, for a family that has welcomed me, for the daughter that Lucian seeks, for the family that all of us need. I pledge to you each, I will see this through. I will not be going back to Flamespire. I will not be going back to Grand Skull Walk. I will see this through. And he takes another big slug of whiskey. and kind of points with his empty shot glass at each of you and says, "You've each saved my life more times than I can count, and you can count on me to do the same."
I think as you're saying this, you see in Lucian's face a sense of like familiarity with what you're saying when you describe like fighting against the darkness as like being in like cold water. Like there's this look on Lucian's face of like, I know exactly what you're describing, and I know this feeling of like something slipping through your fingers and not being able to stop it. Like he sees a lot of his experience in parallel with yours. And when you talk about having perseverance, you see his look shifts from this sad sort of recognition to this look of like he respects you a great deal. And he puts a hand on your shoulder and kind of gives it a squeeze at the end of your talk, and he says, "Torgog, I think in this world, perseverance is probably one of the strongest assets to have. And it is a boon for us to have you with us. And likewise, you can count on me, all of you. I know." And he kind of hangs his head and looks around at all of you and says, I know my methods for recruiting you was not the best. It was brute force in some cases. Pretty much every case other than Bip. Bip, you seemed pretty eager to leave the city, which was more of a concern for me. But everyone else involved veiled threats, and I know now I did not need to threaten you into doing this, and I'm grateful for the help you have provided. I would never have made it this far without you, and we've learned a great deal already. I don't think I would have known any of these things. Any of what we've experienced was beyond my grasp. So I am grateful for Torgog, your perseverance, and Brother Ulrich for your hamburgers. And he kind of looks at the bao buns, sandwiches.
Hot dogs, I think.
Pull the rest of your plate away. You obviously didn't like them, so
your devotion to a higher cause, and Bip, your mind, it truly is a wonder. You're a brilliant, I think, more than most people would understand or be able to comprehend. You're a very smart man. Though I don't understand why you use the things you use for spells. There must be better things you can. I don't cast in the same way you do, but surely there's a better component than bubblegum and matchsticks for the spells that you cast.
I've yet to find one. And I've tried many.
He's like reaching under the table and pulling the gum off and just making a bowl.
chewing it back up. Got to make sure it works well. Gross. Lucian, I want you to know you did not force any of these men to come with you. I trust that you are strong. I also know that all of these men are capable of killing pretty much anyone I know. While you think you might have blackmailed them, they all could have fought you there, and they chose not to. You do not need to carry a burden that they're not putting on you.
Lucian looks in his bag, and there's an envelope with Ulrich's name on it, and it's just a picture of him getting absolutely subbed by some giant woman. And he's like, well, I might have.
that'd be great. That'd be great if I was ashamed by it.
We all have that picture. Bit pulls it out too.
Yeah, it does seem to say Happy Holidays across it. I didn't realize this was his postcard for last year.
He gave it to all of us for some reason. It was strange.
It's weird. I invited you all to my holiday party, but none of you came.
None of you showed up.
Sorry, I didn't understand the theme based off the card.
You could have just shown up and asked, but it's whatever.
Speaking of Brother Ulrich, you had mentioned early on, or I had overheard your discussion with Torgog and the Ember, and your choice to hang on to it. I think
I think it was a wise choice, even though we lost it shortly after gathering together. Potentially, it could have been very good for us, but I was always curious why choose to hang on to it. Did you think they would not let us leave with one? What was your reasoning for hanging on to the ember from Elium?
Interesting, as a warden, we don't a lot of time with the embers. Our main responsibility is to safely transport them from Flamespire to wherever they're going. We don't truly have an opportunity to study or observe or even explore what these embers actually do. So after our failure, I don't know, it wasn't, you said, for a malicious purpose or a selfish one, but it was the only opportunity I've ever had to really look at one, to feel it, to hear it sing for more than a moment. I'm saddened that I've learned more in a year, but I also hoped it might give me some sort of extra connection to the gods, that I might be able to possibly use it to get a message through, or for them to get a message through to me, but it didn't work. So,
is that how it works then? Does it amplify your magic?
I don't believe it does. When I'm separated from the ember, like we were, I was still able to use spells and magic, but I do get a sense of peace and comfort from being near to one, that I assume most people do, but I don't. How do you all feel when you're next to one? I don't know. You feel anything?
I don't hear it sing, as you've described it. It makes no noise. The only sense I get from it is that it's nice to keep the darkness away, like a light in the dark. I don't feel anything the way you've described. What do you mean sing, Ulrich? And then he'll kind of gesture for you to like take it out of your bag. He'll look around the tavern and see it's empty and just kind of gesture to be like, put it out on the table. Like, let's see what you're talking about. Because you can see in his face, he has no idea what you're describing. He's never experienced that.
And I think he'll grab his lantern, open up the door, and just ever so gently reach in. I just go to set it on the table, and it just levitates, like the stem touching the wood, and keep the flower upright. When I listen, I hear just the most beautiful singing. It's. Have you ever been alone in the grand hall, and the echoes just sort of reverberate off the walls? It sounds like a single person singing, but echoed back and forth. It sounds like multiple. It's hard to describe, but it is comforting, and it is beautiful, and it is awe-inspiring. It's incredible.
And as you all look at this ember that he set upon the table, all of you kind of experience different things. Torgog, you look into it, and internally, the warmth in your chest, the way it makes you feel, is the exact same way you felt the first time you and Davian ever slept under the stars together, outside of the observation or rules of your society, just the two of you. Lucian, you look at it and you recall the exact feeling you had the first time your daughter ever got scared at night and crawled into bed with you and your wife. And the joy it brought you. Not that she was scared, but that she knew that you were a safe place that she could come to. Bip felt the warmth, saw the light, and could do little more than measure it.
I think a little tear comes from Lucian's eye as you put it out, and he looks at you, Ulrich, and says, I don't hear it sing, but it does bring back memories when I look at it.
Good ones, I hope.
Is this how you feel all the time around it?
Yes. And Ember, I've always felt this way.
Put it away. I don't want to feel it anymore. Put it away. Torgog begins to feel like angry. Maybe he's the angry drunk that you were worried you were going to be.
And he'll nod and slowly, like, hold his hand out to the ember, not to grab it, but to wait for it to fall into his hand.
Bip, did you feel anything as Ulrich placed the ember out?
It's similar to a flame, I think, but I haven't really felt a connection with one before. I think Ulrich might often feel.
It would just be a amount of time in proximity to one. Could be any number of reasons, but I am always honored. I am tasked with carrying one.
What do you think they are, Ulrich?
Ulrich will kind of stare at his lantern, like after Torgog asks him to put the ember back inside of it. It's still giving off that ever hinted glow. To be honest, I don't really know. I believe there might have been a time when, before the planes had separated, that in the separation that certain layers of different planes might have collided and created embers, and we've been tasked with finding and redistributing them as the church. It could be portions of an old existing god itself. It could be parts of another plane entirely. It could be any number of things. We don't really know, but it has to be something good.
The only evidence we have is the one that was made of a heart. Have you heard of that before?
I've never found one in the darkness before, of all places. Like, that would be the last place I would assume one to have been found, but our orders not to ask questions about where we find the embers, but our task simply is to bring them to their desired place.
It's absurd. If y'all wanted to help people, and wouldn't you figure out how to make more if you were good? Sorry. Straight to the point.
And I think he'll, like, I don't think it's going to phase him. Like, I don't think we can manufacture this. We've consulted with other alchemists and other wizards, other sorcerers, warlocks. We've consulted them all. None of them know what they truly are, but they all agree on one thing, is that they are very powerful, and in the wrong hands believe they could also do terrible things just as much as they could do good things.
I'm glad you said that. The man in black from the tavern, he took it. In your worst imagination, what do you think he could use it for?
I think it could swallow the light. It could doubt the sun entirely. It could... I haven't spent much time dwelling on the evil that it could do, but just try to focus on the good.
I'm sorry I lashed out. I don't think I was prepared to hear its song. And I push another shot of whiskey towards Ulrich. You've done a lot of thinking about it. It can't be easy for you.
If you ever wish to spend more time around it, it'll be all right by me. No, the shot still burns. Oh,
Why do you stick your pinky out when you drink it? And I hand him another one because I'm like, this is painful. We're gonna teach you.
I grab it with the other hand and down it.
I do appreciate you sharing that, Ulrich. I won't pretend to know the motives of the church, but clearly controlling the embers in some capacity is their goal. Under normal circumstance, I might think it's the wrong approach, but seeing as the man in black took it to do with whatever he plans, clearly there's a reason to guard these embers. I think they are more than what we know. We should be cautious in how we present this one, but you are a good warden for it, I believe. I think the church might know more than they're letting on.
Suspect you may be right, and believe me, I have missions of my own now, after spending so much time with one. Enough about me. Ulrich will down another shot.
Bip, explain to me, if you and Randall are both instructors or professors of sorts, but your role seemed much more...
And you'll see Lucian's really trying to think hard of like the word
because he doesn't want to offend Bip. Your role seemed a lot more loosey-goosey, I think the term is. Where with Randall, he was very rigid and regimented and very structured. But from everything we gathered, you had a very loose approach to your role at the university. How did you come to teach there? From what we gathered, he'll kind of stop again and try to think of the right way to put it. There was no official record of you as a teacher there. So I'm not sure how you managed to take over a classroom entirely.
Yeah, there's a lot of gumption, I think is kind of the best word. I was a student there for a while, and then came back, and it just kind of all worked out. You know, I don't know if they really wanted me there right off the bat. I didn't even get a contract or anything, which was shocking. And then students just started showing up. It just felt like disciples, really, to me, because they were seeking out my wisdom and my experience. I did later find out that it was all an accident, and that did kind of really tank my ego for a little bit. But
Wait. Are you saying they didn't intend to put you in the janitor's closet?
oh no, the janitor died a couple years ago, and they've had some like magical helpers who have done most of the cleaning, so they haven't actually used the closet for a bit. So I just kind of took the open space, if you will. That was just more so I wanted an office, and they had an open room. I thought we would work out the rental details later, but they never came to me, so...
So then what inspired you, Bip? Everyone had their reasons for wanting to venture out into the darkness. But you seem to have a pretty good... I'm not even sure you were getting paid, but you did have something there at the university that seemed to be working well for you. So what is it you're looking for?
Truthfully, I know this isn't necessarily smart or logical, but when the rest of these men met me, I was a very hopeful person. I think I put a lot of weight into stories I had been told of something out there, of something that can help. For me personally, it wasn't a god; it was an old ancient order of wizards that had the key, that had the solution, that had, you know, the solve to everything, and everything had an answer. That's originally why I came out, truthfully. I'm not really sure of that anymore, but I just try to get through the day. I don't know if there's a solution, but I also don't think anything's going to get better if we don't move towards trying to find one. So I might die tomorrow. And that's what it is, but I also felt like at the end of the semester they might have gotten on to me, so I didn't really, didn't want to overstay my welcome. It was kind of good timing for you to come along.
I mean, I'll speak for myself, but to be honest, I don't know much of your life before the university. Where did you grow up? Where are you from, Bip? I feel like I've known you as the scholar and the professor. Just not really much about your life before this.
That's fair. I'm sorry that I've not shared that with you. I was a student at the university for years and years before I met y'all. My parents were both pretty gifted in the arcane, and I think I was kind of naturally gifted in some of it. But I was a student for years. Lived with my uncle, my sister's in town. Y'all have probably met her. She works at a bar. Looks like this, and he points at himself. Pretty similar to me, but female.
Is her beard as majestic as yours?
No, I think she shaves it. I remember when we were kids, she might have had something, but she's as dermaplane, so I think she kind of keeps it low. I mean, my parents actually knew Grigori. That's how I got called in originally. They adventured with him for a little bit. It was fun, but they passed away whenever we were coming to Flamespire a while ago. Lucy, and I don't know how old you are, but I think I might be up there with you. That's the gist of me. I mean, I think compared to if y'all have lived a pretty gifted life, so I can't complain. And I think he kind of like hollowly smiles at that point. I don't think anyone who has trauma can actually smile at that point. But, yeah.
I'll reach over and gently grab your tiny arm. I'm so sorry, dear, about your parents. I have more to say. I'm sorry. I haven't asked about it before now.
No, I don't think you're at fault for that. I think we've all lost people. Not that makes it better, but I know that this isn't a comfortable or easy world. Anyways, and this Bip, again, who is not comfortable with feeling pain. And this is weirdly 3 or 4 drinks in is probably the most like clear you've seen his eyes because he hasn't popped the pill recently. Is going to be very emotionally uncomfortable. He's smart. He's not emotionally smart. So, Lucian, how old are you? What's up with that?
A bit older than I think I probably appear. That's mostly due to my elven heritage. We tend to age a bit slower. I'm probably the oldest of the group by a fair margin. I know Randall believes he is, but not so. I'm a bit older than the rest of you, but not old enough to know anything before our times now. All I've known is the darkness as it is.
Did your parents remember before, maybe, or?
I don't know. I don't know. I grew up in an established township you all would be familiar with, Darkwater. But my parents died when I was very young to an attack. This was in the early days of the darkness, when those creatures still made repeated attempts on townships, even though the light drove them back. They were testing whether or not they could push through or withstand the pain or...
Darkwater would be far to the south on the border of the Drow kingdom.
And thusly the elven heritage, and it was one of those times. We don't think of it much now, well, beside the stranger and his appearance, but there was a point where if you had an ember, you were safe. But in the early days, from what I can gather, these creatures we've encountered would attack regularly in an attempt to get through. But they might have made their way in one day. Maybe somebody let them in. I'm not sure. But my parents were claimed in an attack.
Give me a history check, Lucian.
Okay. Got a +2 on this bad boy. That's an 11.
That's good enough to remember. The drow used to live underground.
Okay.
You were born, just after the time of the rapture, when the sky started going dark and the sun started to dim. The drow started coming out from underground because the sun couldn't stop them anymore.
Yeah, Lucian would relay that to you guys. Trying to ground his life in notable things that you would be like, oh yeah, I know that. That was a big event. That's something we would recognize. But yeah, he would say, and so it was. I grew up just a child in Darkwater, trying to get by. I was a young man when I decided perhaps I should venture out. And by chance, that's when I met Cassandra. And we had a life together. She was the one that convinced me we should aid this new township called Elium. And we should show people that we could drive back the darkness, that we can expand, and we don't need to live in fear. And so we did. And that was when I first saw you all.
Lucian, you'll hear that song again in the back of your mind as you recall the day that you met Cassandra. Randomly on the road by a stone shrine, so worn with age it was unrecognizable. You remember the way it felt when, as you walked up to the road, she looked at you and smiled. And then suddenly, you are once more back in the present moment.
I think as he's remembering that, you guys will see he sort of gets lost in thought and in this memory and starts kind of humming the song to himself. Just sort of absent-mindedly before he catches himself. He kind of grounds himself again and looks at you guys and says, I'm not one for worshiping anyone who's no longer here, and he'll turn to Ulrich and say, my Cassandra always believed they would be here. That maybe something was keeping them away, and they were trying to come back this whole time. She always had hope, much like you, Ulrich. She actually, and he'll kind of smile to himself and remember the whole scene that you described, Mike, and he'll say, she taught me how to pray to some of the older gods. I did not grow up knowing them. She taught me I should always keep them close by. Though she was always more adept at those things than I was. I was always sort of following her lead. She spoke of nature and the gods keeping balance. And that's why the darkness has grown as it is. They're not here to keep the balance and drive it back. She spoke of it often, and the way you speak of the ember reminds me of how she spoke of their presence and what it was like.
Torgog's gonna see as Lucian kind of comes back to reality a little bit after being lost in his thoughts. Top up his shot glass and say, Lucian, I've alluded to this a few times, but let me just ask it blunt. The man in the tavern, he knew you. You have a shared history with him. What is the extent of your relationship?
It's a good question, Torgog. I don't think it's as sordid as it appears. My daughter and I, when we were running and trying to survive, he was the first I heard in the darkness. When it spoke to me, it was his voice, as I'm sure you all have heard the darkness speak to you at different points in different ways. His was the first voice I heard. Initially, I could not discern it from anything. I thought it might be helpful. It was not threatening, it was directing us away from danger, and perhaps that was his game, and it lulled me into a false sense of safety. The first chance he got, it was his hand that reached out from the darkness and took my daughter. And the next thing I knew, we were overrun. Countless hollows and creatures pouring out from the shadows.
The actual end of that conflict for you is blank.
Yeah, okay, perfect. He'll kind of stop and turn and look at you, Torgog, and say, I don't remember much after they swarmed. The only thing I remember distinctly is the same feeling you had, Torgog. Like being swallowed up by ice cold, dark, black water. Not being able to move or see or breathe, and then it was gone. She was gone.
I'm sorry for your loss. We will avenge you. The darkness, it changes you when it consumes you. Have you noticed?
I think he hesitates a little bit, and then you see he kind of clutches his chest, the center of it, like he's suddenly in pain. And I think he shakes it off, and then he looks at Torgog and kind of holds his eye. And he says, I have noticed. And Torgog, I say this with no judgment. And I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I've also seen you able to wield the darkness in portion now. And I think if you are able to, it is a useful tool that we desperately need. But I would like some clarity to make sure I'm not seeing things. The shadows do play tricks on us. Are you able to, in some degree, control the darkness?
You mean control the darkness?
Oh, Rick, I can show you. What you're about to see, I want to assure you, all of you, that, well, this might change our relationship. I have been touched by the darkness, but I can control what you're about to witness, and I need you to trust me one more time. And Torgog's eyes just turn black. Like a pool of oil just flooded into his eyeballs, and he looks to the door behind him, and he lifts up his hand and does like a gesture as if he's almost grabbing the air and pulling it towards him. And as he does, the darkness seems to ooze through the windows and under the door and coalesce into a thick matted blob in front of the door, and then it expands out into a 20 foot by 20 foot kind of area, deliberately not on top of anyone in the tavern, but definitely blocking off the wall. And he stands up and he walks into the darkness, and he's going to stand there for just a moment and look back out through it at his friends and his trusted allies, just pausing for their reaction for a moment before he drops the darkness. What does he see? What does he see in Ulrich's eyes?
I think panic. The only other time he's seen someone wield the darkness was a stranger who filled funny enough, a tavern full of people. So I think Ulrich scoots back from the table, takes like a bladed stance with the lantern held in front of him, which he's going to cast light on immediately, hold in front of him, and just start walking towards the darkness, just back. You will not claim him. And start moving towards the darkness, trying to like come get you, basically.
Seeing that Ulrich is concerned for Torgog, Torgog drops it immediately. And as it dissipates, you see him standing quite calmly in the center of what was the dark pool. And he says, "It's okay, Ulrich. The darkness changes all of us, and this is simply the way it has changed for me. As the ember speaks to you, the darkness speaks to me. I can feel it all around me, almost all the time. I can feel it pulling me. I have no doubt I could traverse through it if I could bring myself to face the fear of it. It comforts me in a perverse sort of way. I can tell you, though, not all of the darkness is hostile. It wants me to succeed. It emboldens me, and I can control it. You have nothing to fear from my dark."
It's one of the first things they teach us as a Dawn Warden, is that we are not in control of the light. We are just mere bearers of it. We are entrusted with it.
I don't fully understand it either, but we live in a magical age. There are wizards capable of great things. Does it seem so strange that somebody would be able to control the darkness?
I've heard of people who claim to have control over the darkness, and as far as I've seen, they've only caused pain and suffering and death. It's all the darkness has ever done for me. Everyone I've known.
Pain and suffering and death have certainly been present with me throughout my life. I want you to know, Ulrich, that if I ever feel this is too much, too strong, if I ever feel out of control, I will let you know. I would trust you with a task only a brother could ask another brother. And he's going to walk up and whisper something into Ulrich's ear that the rest of the group can't quite make out.
What will that be?
And he's going to tell Ulrich to destroy him, to destroy Torgog. If Torgog ever feels like he's can't control the darkness, the only person he trusts with that knowledge is Ulrich. And it's your sacred duty to end that darkness and end Torgog's suffering.
I think you'll see Ulrich kind of like determination and sadness in equal measure in his stare. Just the slightest nod.
And then I'm gonna hug him. Deep, not like a bro hug, but like a deep love, understanding has formed here. And Torgog's a large man, 7 foot tall, and a little bit. And all of his frame, all of it, you feel the weight of his body as he just wraps himself around you. And you hear him fighting back tears a little bit too. And then he gathers himself and he looks at the bar and he looks at the bottle and the empty shot glasses and says, "Oh, Bip, I think I'm done playing bartender for the night. Perhaps you can serve the next round. And he walks over to sit down beside Bip.
So I think that as you sit down and Bip stands up to take over bartending duties, the session ends. The credits roll.
This was Dumpstat, a D&D podcast hosted by our DM, Mike, with players Derek, Jordan, Matt, Todd, and me, Jeff. Be sure to follow us on social media, and if you like the music and sound effects used, check out the episode description for all the info you need.